Hello and welcome to News in Depth here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Russia's intensified ballistic missile campaign is exposing a critical weakness in Ukraine's air defences as shortages of Patriot interceptors leave major cities increasingly vulnerable. With Western production struggling to keep pace, Kyiv is urgently searching for faster and cheaper alternatives. Joining us is Matthew Day, the Overseas Media Centre at TVP World. Matthew, welcome back. Good to have you again.
Hello, it's good to be back as always.
Thank you. Good to have you. So, as usual, we'll kick off with a short soundbite, the President Zelensky, and I'd love to get your view on that.
Okay.
We must do everything possible to ensure partners increase deliveries of anti-ballistic air defense. Yes, all of us must work on this. The army, the leadership, all of us. Ukroboronprom and the private sector, our defense industry must also focus together with partners on building our domestic air defense system. The military knows they need to destroy enemy launchers, thereby reducing strikes against Ukraine.
Now, there was a stage where Ukraine seemed to have the upper hand. Their use of drones, attacking strategic assets, oil and gas, and so on. However, this use of ballistic missiles by Russia seems to have found the vulnerability in Ukraine's defence. Now, Ukraine's been talking about this, for months, in fact, almost since the start of the war. We need more missile defence, but they haven't got it. What's going on? Talk us through the dynamics of what's happening now.
Well, first of all, I'll point out that Ukraine's offensive campaign still goes on and is still being very effective. But at the same time, over the past month, Russia has significantly ramped up its ballistic missile attacks on Ukrainian cities, and in particular Kyiv. A very bloody campaign as well.
And against civilians, it must be said.
Most of the time, yeah. And this has been, they are exploiting a shortage of interceptor missiles, as you said, and that shortage is not going to go away, and that shortage is being increased by the fact that America is just burning through them in Iran, while fighting Iran at the moment, and that war is still rumbling on. So America is going to carry on shooting interceptor missiles at Iranian missiles for the time being. And that has created a huge shortage, and Russia can produce ballistic missiles far quicker than Ukraine can be resupplied with interceptor missiles.
Right, I mean, President Zelensky there is talking about, our partners. Who's he talking about? Is he talking about the United States, or is he talking about Europe, or is he talking about both?
I think he's talking about both. He definitely wants more Patriot missiles directly from the United States, whether that is possible given the need the United States has to supply its own batteries in the Gulf, but also looking at the countries that operate the Patriot systems. I think around the world there are 18 countries that have Patriot batteries. Some of them have already given missiles to Ukraine, but others are probably hanging on to theirs. And of course, we have a bit of a vicious circle here, because the countries that operate the Patriot systems, they know that if they give their missiles to Ukraine, they're not going to get they're not going to get resupplied, so their batteries will be empty, and that's the kind of situation they might be reluctant to tolerate.
Well, understandably so, and the thing is that, as you say, Russia doesn't have a problem producing these missiles; it's producing them at a rate of knots.
And also, we have to keep in mind that it's getting some from North Korea.
And from North Korea, yeah, absolutely, as well as soldiers, of course, who have recently come over and are based near Voronezh in Russia. But doesn't this expose a much bigger vulnerability, Matthew? I mean, today Ukraine, tomorrow the rest of Europe. I mean, if Russia keeps lobbing these missiles over the whole of Europe, there's nothing anyone can do about it.
You're right, yeah. It is a big problem. Like, if you look at the defence inventories of European countries and its defences against ballistic missiles is a big gap. Okay, some countries have the Patriot missile batteries. Some countries have the Franco-Italian system, which is called the SAMP/T. I think that's how you pronounce it. that's operational, but supplies are scarce. It's not universal. So yeah, Europe as a whole, including Ukraine, has a major deficiency when it comes to protection against incoming ballistic missiles.
Right. Now, what are the alternatives? What does, what can Ukraine do, in this terrible position?
Well, in short, at the moment, it can't do much, and that's a big problem, because people have been talking about the FREYJA missile, which is gaining a lot of attention at the moment because in the long run it could be the answer to Ukrainian streams.
So this is a defensive missile?
This is a defensive missile which will be targeting incoming ballistic missiles. So it's purely defensive. And it ticks a certain number of boxes. First of all, it can be produced quite quickly, but more importantly, it's going to be quite cheap. And this is vital now, because if you I saw a price tag of like $700,000 per missile.
So for the Patriot?
No, for the FREYJA.
The
FREYJA interceptor. A Patriot missile can come $4 million per missile, up to $7 million if it's like an export model. And that is a huge amount of money. And if you think about the Patriot, it was designed at a time when people thought, okay, maybe several missiles will be coming at us. And therefore, the cost per kill ratio is easy to handle. You fire off a couple of Patriots, gudung, miss a threat, neutralise, and you just spent a few $1 million. But now, what is happening now is that Russia is firing, like the other night, it fired 28 missiles at Kyiv. And the cost per kill ratio, if you're talking about Patriots, will just go through the roof. It basically becomes financially unsustainable.
Right.
So you really need cheaper missiles that can be produced in volume, fired in volume, and they can deal with high-intensity attacks that Russia is using. Right. And Ukraine needs it, Europe needs it, but the problem is, while it's being developed, it won't come online maybe until the end of next year, and that's...
We've actually, talking about FREYJA, we've got a representative of that organisation. I think we've got a short soundbite who's basically saying what you've just said, Matthew. Maybe we can hear that.
The most complicated part of this is that we're trying to squeeze in the program that usually takes 20 years or 30 years in a matter of a couple of years. On the other side, we have very mature participants with a big will to fight and to work, and also probably to rethink how this market and how this system work at all. But we understand that we do not have much of a choice as the Ukrainians, because we all see the situation with the Patriot interceptors and their production rate, and how much of them we have in Ukraine. The attacks from Russia are intensifying, and it is in our personal interest to do it as fast as we possibly can. We, of course, are no magicians, and we will not overcome the actual the physics law, but as much as we can, we will invest all of our knowledge, of all of our speed-up practices to do this to conduct the first interception next year. For me, the MVP would be that the interception will happen at all. We expect the launcher to have from 4 to 6 missiles. So if from the one batch there would be an interception of ballistic missile, for MVP this would be a wonderful result. And then, of course, we will work on squeezing down the statistics.
So that was the CEO of FirePoint, the company that manufactures the FREYJA that you've just been mentioning. And she was saying something about next year at the very earliest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? Is Ukraine working alone? Are they working in partnership with other countries?
No, it's not working alone. It has, I think there are 8 other European countries involved, and FirePoint has already signed deals with about 12 European defence firms, and these firms are going to provide certain components, high-tech components such as for the radar, command and control, guidance systems, and but you have to coordinate the cooperation with all these firms, with these countries as well, and that's going to be a job in itself. They are going to move very quickly. It is, of course, in the interest of European countries who don't have proper anti-ballistic missile systems to move as quickly as possible as well. So as you were saying, like, there's an incentive to get this done as quickly as they can. But even moving heaven and earth, it is going to take, maybe at the best, we'll have this system operating at the end of next year. But for Ukrainian cities, that's going to be a very long wait.
It is a very long wait indeed, and civilians, of course, hundreds and hundreds dying, every few months. Now, okay, so defensive missiles, we know where we stand. What about attacking the missile launchers, the bases, from where these missiles are being, sent? How's Ukraine doing on that front?
Well, of course, if you can actually stop the missiles being fired in the first place, that's wonderful. And some people are saying that Ukraine could have the capacity to do this, and that would be the quick fix which is desperately needed. Okay, Ukraine already tries to target these launchers, but people are arguing now that process could be enhanced greatly if the Ukraine's fleet of F-16s, which they got from the United States, could be equipped properly with ARAM missiles. And these ARAM missiles are air-launched. They're designed to hit specific targets, and they're very accurate. And Ukraine, I think, under a deal signed with the United States last year, has like over 3,000 of them, or, well, will have over 3,000 of them. And that provides...
Unless America uses them in Iran, of course.
Possibly, yeah. But the deal has been signed.
Right.
Yeah. But that means that Ukraine could have the volume. And if they can be attached to the F-16s and they can be fired, then that could, in theory, significantly reduce the amount of missiles that are being launched. The problem being, though, of course, is actually finding the launchers. Russia knows that Ukraine regards the launchers as a prime target, and it's become very adept at hiding these launchers. And of course, they're mobile, so they shoot, they scoot, they hide, they move on.
The back of trucks, those are the trucks you see with the pipes on the back.
Exactly, like the Iskander is a mobile unit. I think the system that has come from North Korea, another mobile unit as well.
Okay.
So when you think that you have, that unit is going to go out onto the roads, into a forest somewhere, and Ukraine doesn't have very long to track its movement, get an F-16 up in the air, or commit an F-16 to firing a missile, and all that has to be done very quickly before the system can fire its missiles itself. Okay, maybe Ukraine can actually score a couple of kills, and that might force Russia to pull back these systems, send them further away from Russia, further away from the front line, where they're safer. And that would give Ukraine's defences more time to respond to an incoming missile and give people more time to hide.
Yeah, but when we say more time, we're talking about, I don't know, a minute or two, aren't we?
Yeah, possibly, but at the moment it can even be in seconds. Or a friend of mine in Kyiv was telling me today that actually the warning comes after the actual missile has struck.
Is that right?
So time can save lives. So as I said, with ARAM, Ukraine will have thousands of them. Apparently it is a very capable missile. It's fairly cheap as well, which is another good thing. But the hard part is finding the launchers before they find you.
What about the Ukrainian missiles? How well protected are they on that? How well protected is Ukraine for prosecuting this war when it comes to their own missiles?
Well, Ukraine is very tight-lipped about what kind of damage is done to its defence infrastructure. We hear about attacks on Ukraine all the time, but what has actually been hit is another thing altogether. Like, for example, FirePoint. I guarantee any FirePoint facility, it would be a prime target for a Russian ballistic missile, and they'll be doing their hardest to try and destroy anything to do with FirePoint. Ukraine has become remarkably adept at dispersing its defence infrastructure, its facilities. So, okay, one thing might be hit and destroyed, but everything else can function, carry on functioning. Ukraine is excellent at that, so it's spread its defence infrastructure all over the country. But clearly Russia is trying to target it and will continue to try and target it. So we'll see. Apparently one other aspect that Ukraine does have, which is providing some sort of continuous defence, is, I think it's called Lima, which is basically an electronic warfare system. And apparently it is quite adept at basically confusing drones, cruise missiles, possibly ballistic missiles. They lose their sense of direction, and they go in the wrong direction.
Right. So you might actually be able to turn them around.
Not turn them around. The problem being, of course, it doesn't shoot anything down. So if you have an incoming ballistic missile, it doesn't hit its target, but it hits somewhere else, and it will destroy things or kill people as well. So it would be good if
it's in a different place.
It would be good if it protects a high-value target, like a FirePoint facility would be a high-value target. But the downside is that missile will go somewhere else, and
so they can't actually redirect it. They can only deflect it.
Yeah, they can just confuse it, so it will go somewhere else. And it's a tool of necessity, but it's far from ideal.
Yeah, I mean, does Ukraine not have its own missiles? Quite apart from the FREYJA and so on, but its own missiles which it can use against Russia?
Well, yeah, Ukraine has been extremely good at developing missiles. We've talked about the Flamingo in the past, which is like a long-range cruise missile, and it is now developing its own ballistic missiles, so it can actually inflict the same kind of pain on Russia that is being inflicted on. Well,
not quite, because Ukraine isn't targeting civilians.
No, it won't. But it'll definitely try and target Russian military infrastructure.
Right.
When these ballistic missiles will come, will be operational, we're not too sure. Once again, Ukraine is a bit tight-lipped about that. But they've gone from drawing board to getting to be operational in a very, very short time, which is remarkable.
Which is remarkable.
And when Ukraine can start firing them, and then it might be able to, well, I wouldn't say it won't be able to shift the balance significantly, but it might be able to inflict enough damage on Russian infrastructure, defense infrastructure, energy infrastructure, to cause Russia to, well, maybe Russia won't stop and think, but maybe
give them pause, perhaps.
It will provoke sort of Russians as a whole, maybe, to stop and think about the futility of this war.
Well, one can only hope. Matthew, just very, very briefly, if you would, what about hitting the factories that produce these ballistic missiles for Russia?
I think Ukraine is already doing that. It is trying its hardest, but Russia's a massive country, and it can sort of disperse things. So a bit here, a bit is made here, a bit is made there.
Right.
So
maybe that's Wildberries has something to do with that, because one of the reasons they're bombing those is because they're sending dual-use components, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of the campaign. But people are saying that Russia can produce about 100 missiles a month, which is
a lot,
an awful lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully that can be reduced, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
No, unfortunately. Matthew, as always, thank you so much for sharing your analysis with our audience.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of News in Depth. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.